This fight also was a fight of too many exclamation points. Let me explain that. Yo, this is Trav with Trav Sports Bag. As you see, I am back at it again today with you. And by the way, we're going to go down the path of boxing. The reason why, there have been so many boxing matches going on so far, boxing matches with real significance to it, so I'm touching on it. I always say this is a sports channel, not just boxing, but there's been a lot more boxing that was important than other sports right now. Of course, the NBA Finals are here, and I will get around to it. If you looked at some of my videos, you saw my MVP version of Jokic. The Joker is wild, and he is the MVP for the second time. So, yes, this isn't just about boxing, but boxing is what's happening right now. And that is what this channel is going to provide you with right now. Based on the analytics, you like it, so I'm bringing it to you. You show that you like watching this type of content. You show that you really like this content in general, so I'm giving the people what they want. I will be the people's champ. Anyways, before I become the people's champ, let me ask you a question. Can you subscribe to the channel? That's the YouTube business we're usually talking about. That business that means subscribe. Hit the alarm bell. Make sure you get every drop I drop whenever I drop it. And if you're down with the program for real, which I see now slowly but surely, we're getting close to 100 subscribers. So the step to 1,000 and beyond begins with the first step. Right now we're at 81, which is great. And I do appreciate everyone who likes what I am doing. It gives me incentive to do more and want to do more. Anyways, my trip to 1,000 subscribers, I want that to happen too, because I want a large sporting community. That way we can communicate with each other anytime there's any sporting event. Thereafter the event, before the event, during the event. Let's get to that and help our brother out that way. Anyway, I know why you're here, as I always do. And you know why you're here, because you saw the thumbnail. And that thumbnail was about this past weekend's boxing match between Jermell Charlo. He stops Brian Castano in their big time second fight. After their first fight was exciting, etc., this one was ended with fireworks. Jermell Charlo, the second half of the Lions Only Club, along with his brother Jermell, who's a middleweight. He is now the undisputed Super Welterweight, Junior Middleweight champion of the world, and he did it in outrageously appealing fashion. There aren't any questions left. Half of the Lions Only Club, he put on a show with a 10th round knockout of Brian Castano, but it was not an easy task. Anyone who's watched the fight, they were excited. They saw that Brian had a real opportunity. He wasn't just there to get a paycheck. He was there to win. He wanted the same prize as Jermell Charlo. He just fell short, and in this case, he has nothing to be ashamed of. He needed a great dance partner in terms of Brian Castano, and I meant Charlo needed a great dance partner. He found it. To get this type of a matchup, to get this significant of a win, you need a dance partner to appease the fans, to appease your legacy. And at 154, these two got together in California, Carson, California, outdoors, in front of many. And they put on the do, and we enjoyed it. So that's why I'm here talking about it right now. They topped their first fight, which we thought was a damn good fight. They were able to top that. The sequels typically aren't as good as the originals that it implies in boxing, just as well as it applies in the movies. And this had delivered the way we wanted to. But before I do anything in terms of talking about the fight, let's give a few props to someone who I believe deserve just as many props, and he is one of the unsung heroes of the fight. Jerry Cantu, the referee, excellent job by him. He played the role of the movie B-list star and two stars in front of him, allowing them to do what they did. He did not make it about him. He stayed away, and he allowed them to show us a great fight that day. If I were to give him a ranking, of course, I would give him an A. And the reason for not having an A+ was Well, when Charlo did knock down Castano, he did not allow him to stay in his neutral corner. He was right back on top of Brian as soon as the opportunity came. And that's one of those flaws that referees do. And I understand they get caught in the moment, but you're not supposed to get caught in the moment. This game is dangerous. So with that said, give Jerry Cantu his flowers, his respect, his props. He did a great job as a referee. Now let's get to the buildup of this fight. It went from an anticipated rematch, which was a great rematch that we knew that was going to happen, to a little bit of nationalism, which isn't a bad thing when it comes to boxing. Boxing has always been like that. There's always been nationalism to it. You understand that because you had Charlo from the United States and you had Castano from Argentina, so you knew what you were going to get. There also has been ethnocentric nationalism and all of those things, and it's been in the history of boxing for so long, you couldn't be upset with it. It added that flair. It added that flavor. We can go back in years to see how it's been happening. Benny Leonard, the Jewish fighter, versus Jimmy McLaurin, the Irish fighter. Years ago, we saw that those things didn't change. It brought out the masses simply because of ethnicity, certainly because of nationalism, all of those things. Max Baer wearing the Star of David. We know what that's all about. At least if you don't, Ray Arcel, the great trader, does. Baer wasn't even Jewish. He just wore it because he needed all of the people possible to help his purse get bigger and live his lavish lifestyle. We know that if you're a boxing fan. If you're not, now you do. It's always been the case. The Italian fighters, the Puerto Rican fighters, today's version are the Mexican fighters, as proud as you could possibly be in the world of boxing. So let's get down to the business at hand. It was an exciting fight. Didn't I say that before? It was an exciting fight. This fight was one of those fights where skills weren't necessarily going to pay the bills, because Charlo was so much more skilled than Brian Castano, like he was in the first fight. But the skills, though, were not going to guarantee victory this time around. This was one of those bite-down fights that you had to put on top of the skill set in order to get the desired result. And Charlo was able to pull it off because Brian Castano was not going away from a few sharp shots. He wasn't going away from a lot of sharp shots, at least not immediately. And like a poker player, he never showed his hand. He just kept coming. He stuck to his own game plan. He showed his discipline, and he was ready to go 12 rounds if need be, unless he was impeded, unless he was stopped, which he eventually was in round 10. Charlo, once again, obviously the most talented of the two, and Castano overcame all of that. He came all of that with grit and determination and his own skill set. He wasn't without skill himself. He just didn't have that apparent overwhelming skill set of throwing rapid combinations, hand speed and power and all that. He had enough power because he got the respect. But I tell you what, Charlo has a chin that we probably didn't know about all along. Now we do. He took some hellacious shots and he came back from it. And I'll tell you another side story. I didn't think he and his brother was as good as advertised when they came on the scene. I thought they were a bunch of talking, this and that and all the other. I've seen boxing for so many decades. And I thought they were just the newest ones doing exactly what everyone else has been doing in the past. And then they fizzle out later on. I've been wrong, and I'm glad to be wrong. I'm not on the bandwagon. I like these guys. They've won me over, and I'm sure they've won over others. And especially after this fight, Jermell should have won over any detractors he's had, because he went to hell and back to get the victory that he eventually had to earn. So the skills did not pay the bill. You had to bite down in this fight, which Charlo did, and he had to see it through. He had to believe in himself, which obviously you do all of this training because you do believe in yourself. Castano disallowed Charlo from showing that skill in its entirety. He cut the distance. He shortened the distance. He got to where he needed to be in angle-wise and didn't allow Charlo to get the full extension on his punches. The power came from the end of the punch, but Castano knew that, so he kept it a little closer. So Charlo could not get that full extension all of the time, but what Charlo was able to do was be a smart fighter. He made his own distance. He did step back a step or two. He did step back a half step and created just enough room for that full extension on the right hand, or that uppercut that you need when you're inside and unexpectedly. But Castano, when you get down to a fighter like that, looking pretty, being pretty, all that stuff is all well and good. But when he puts the pressure on you, you just got to fight. This was a boxing match. It was an excellent high caliber chess match, boxing match, but it was a hell of a fight. Skills matter. Heart matters more, and it always will. That's what's going to separate the decent fighters, the solid fighters, even the good fighters, for fighters who dare to be great. Castano never showed his hand. He was getting hit with really solid shots, sharp shots, and he kept coming back. He retaliated immediately. The warrior in him would not allow him to just give Charlo an opportunity to think that, okay, this is the time I need to really jump on him. Case in point, in the 4th round, Charlo landed left hook at the bell, near the bell. And you saw how Castano had taken it. His body language showed you, he was stunned. But luckily, it was at the end of the round. He had a chance to sit down. He had a chance to gather his bearings and come out for the next round. But let me tell you another thing. This fight also was a fight of too many exclamation points. Let me explain that. Exclamation points in the fight, meaning you're throwing combinations and you're ending it with an exclamation point. Bam! And there were a lot of those coming from Charlo. His hand speed allowed him to get the upper hand in that area. Castano didn't have the fast hands. He was dropping bombs one after the other, but Charlo was able to just bam after each combination, whether it was a 3-punch combination, 4-punch combination, whichever combination it was. That last one ended with an exclamation point that got the attention of Brian Castano. No, they all didn't land, but that exclamation point meant something. And it you know what? Surprisingly, it did not completely impede Brian Castano, but it did go in the bank early. And the dividends were paid later on in the 10th round when Brian didn't want to show his hand, but was forced to show his hand because of the battle of attrition it turned out to be. It was an absolutely fantastic fight. You don't need me to tell you that. If you saw the fight, and if you have not seen the fight, you need to hurry up and see that fight. These are the fights we love. The boxing gods have been good for us, good to us for the past several months. I don't think it's going to let up. We still have a whole bunch of fights. We're just in May. There are a whole bunch of months left until we get to December, and I know there are huge fights out there based on that. The 4th round in particular, as I mentioned, that left hook from Charlo landed very hard, and I think that was the beginning of these exclamation points adding up, adding that sentence of KO for Charlo. So, as you know, I'm doing this boxing right now, but this is a sports channel. So, in letting you know that, look at these 4 videos I have here for you. You can pick them. There's either boxing, there's football, there's even some basketball. This Jokic did with the MVP I mentioned earlier. That's there too. So make sure you hit it up. I'm Trav. Thanks for joining me. Continue to subscribe. Continue to like this page. Continue to share with other people who like sports like this. And I'll tell you this, until next time.